remember the absolute worst day of my life. It was November 25th, 2012. It was the day I took them to the airport. And everything in my head was screaming, red flag, don't do it. This is a terrible idea. It's not going to work how you want it to work. You know this is wrong. Don't let them go. Don't let them go. That was the guy back here, but this Travis was like, no, we got to do this. We got to make it right. We're rationalizing.
Mm-hmm.
My intuition was screaming, but my rational brain was trying to make it make sense. Well, my intuition was right, and shortly after, that whole plan was pulled out from underneath me, and the most painful moment that day was actually, with all of that going on in my head, I let them go anyway. And the moment they walked through those doors at the airport, I see her holding my son's hand, him pulling a little suitcase with his little Lightning McQueen backpack on, excited as hell because he's going on an adventure. So he's smiling, happy, and then watching them walk through those doors, that left a gash in my heart. It like shattered it. And that was probably, that was without a doubt the most painful thing I've ever felt. Through all the things I've done, all the injuries I've had, and all the loves and losses and whatever, nothing comes close to that. That was horrific.
Isn't it amazing though how you can, at like one moment like that where you don't feel things as much and you shut all this stuff down, and then that one thing hits you and it's like
nothing holding that back.
It's like a freaking Mack truck runs you over.
Yeah. If my normal threshold for feeling was somewhere in this range, good to bad to horrible to great, that opened up a whole new level of pain.
Yeah.
I'd never known you could hurt that much. And it probably didn't help that I had no tolerance for pain, for emotional pain, because I hadn't felt much emotional pain.
That's what it's weird. Like you hadn't felt it and you didn't know it, and then all of a sudden, it's like
it was
a million times.
It definitely changed me a little bit. It left that huge wound on my heart. And the thing that really made it worse was, up until that point, my wife and I, we had split up. She was living down the street at our neighbor's house. It was one of her friends. For the last 3 weeks or so, maybe it was a month, we were split up. And that's probably why it was such an obvious mistake that I let them go. But, like I said, we were having trouble, so we were going to go to England and try and patch things up. So during that month, I was definitely sad. I was hurting because my family wasn't there. Mm-hmm. The first time I came home and there was no one there, that the silence is deafening. Mm-hmm. I knew what that meant, but I never knew what that meant until I closed the door. It was almost overwhelming how quiet it was in my house. And so I was dealing with that, and I had a friend offer speed, crystal meth, and it was actually an ex-girlfriend. She said, well, here, I'll just send you some. You can have some of this. So I thought, anything at this point, whatever. And that was while my ex-wife was living down the street. I kind of dabbled a little bit. And what I realized later on was that the more I took the meth, the less I needed the painkillers. And so I thought, well, shit, I can get off of this. Maybe I can finally kick this painkiller addiction. I can quit this at any time. Nope. I kicked one addiction. It did work. I'd never had any withdrawals or anything. But I had a monkey on my back that was twice the size and way more vicious. Yeah. And so that was kind of the start. But the day they left, I was in so much pain. I came home and I said, all right, Travis, you've got 1 week. You can just do whatever you want. You can get high as you want, fucked up, whatever you want to do for 1 week. And then we're going to start taking action. Well, that 1 week turned into 4 years. And it was a nightmarish 4 years. Because, you know, I've always had this kind of two mind system. I've got a Travis back here who's very, you know, logical and sees and feels all the emotion, but knows how to navigate those emotions. And then I've got the Travis up here who is living and experiencing, and this one doesn't think as well as this one. This one takes notes, and it's like he almost sits back there pushing buttons to see how Travis out here experiences the world. And so, you know, throughout all of that extreme downward spiral, I remember always kind of taking notes in the back of my head, like, remember this moment, remember how this feels, remember, you know, because here I was doing all right, obviously kind of losing my family, and I still had my career, I still could be competing. I kind of stopped training a little bit, but I was still in shape. And over the next 3 or 4 years, I just watched as one thing after another started to fall away, little pieces. You know, you have this castle that you've built, and then brick by brick, it starts to crumble. And so, you know, the Travis back here, he was taking notes with all of that. And, you know, it was really important that he did, because that's how I eventually ended up getting myself out of that shit. Because one of the things I noticed among all of them was that the more I seemed to focus on the bad things in my life, the more I seemed to create more of those bad things in my life.
Right.
This is before, you know, I'd ever read The Secret or looked at any kind of law of attraction. It was just something that I noticed. And I was definitely focusing on everything that I'd lost, everyone who'd fucked me over, every bit of pain that I had. And that was what I focused on all day, every day.
Right.
You know, my life is so bad, poor me, victim mentality, bullshit. And so after a couple of years, it finally got to a point, it was so bad that I was going to end things. And I think we've talked about this before. I had a Beretta 40 caliber I was going to do it with some nasty hollow point thing that we don't need to go in detail.
Yeah, I think we both had a similar situation like that. If we're going to do it, we're going to make sure that there was not going to be much left.
And so on that, you know, it was like the thing that stopped me was I didn't want to make that much of a mess for some poor bastard to have to clean up. So, but you know, when that happens, you're staring the devil in the face. You know, that's about as dark as it gets. Yeah. So you're staring the devil in the face, you know, and I remember that moment, you know, sitting there staring at him, and he's saying, "You ready to give up?" And I remember thinking to myself, no, I'm not ready to give up yet. That's when I put the gun down and started to kind of claw my way out of that darkness. But the revelation I had in that moment was, you know, all the negative things that I thought about every day, I need to find something good around me.
Yeah. Something
good. But most people's expectation is way too high. So they're like, I need to find some good. Maybe I got, you know, $500 in my wallet. Maybe I've got some nice piece of furniture, a nice painting, and something good. I didn't have any of that. I had a tweaker house full of shit. You know, stuff that I had found and brought in because I was going to sell it. And a lot of it I did resell, but I had so much crap everywhere, piles and stacks of organized shit. But that's when I learned I got to lower my expectations, because I can't find anything in this hellhole that I've got. And I was trying to say, well, at least I've got my house. But no, I don't have my house, because at that point, I was on borrowed time. It had already been foreclosed on, so I was getting kicked out of there soon. So I looked around, and I couldn't find anything. And I remember putting my head in my hands, and kind of going, oh shit, I got nothing. And then I see my feet move, my toes wiggle. And at that time, they were pretty torn up because I was standing up for 12 to 14 hours a day, doing tweaker shit. And so I had like blisters and sores on my feet. Injecting meth at the time did not help with that. So it's like it almost pools down there and it just really tears your skin apart. And I started wiggling my toes and I said, well, at least I got all 5 toes on each foot. Both of my feet work. I'm surrounded by shit, but I can get up and I could walk out of here if I wanted to. And in that moment, I realized, or I felt joy. I felt for the first time in years this little surge of joy come up out of the pit of my stomach, and I was like, holy shit. It was the first time I had truly felt happy in years. And so I kind of went with that. I was like, okay, went to sleep, got up the next day. I'm like, I want that again. So I started looking around, and again, I'm starting to go through that negative, oh shit, well that's crap, and I'm losing this, and I've lost that, and my family, friends, job, all the things that spiral downward. I said, okay, cut it, Travis. Okay, you got your feet, find something else. My hands. I got my feet and I got my hands. They're still strong. They're a little messed up, but I can get out of here and I can do anything that I freaking want because I still got my own feet and my own hands. And rather than spiraling down, I started spiraling upward because I started feeling that joy again. Right. So the 3rd day I wanted a 3rd thing. The 4th day I got a 4th thing. And I remember the 5th day I did not find a new thing. But I had 4 other things to be grateful for, so there was another piece of gratitude. And that changed, that completely changed how I looked at the world. I was still surrounded by all this shit everywhere. But instead of it making me sad or looking at it negatively, it's like I changed the filter and I saw a whole new world in front of me. Same one existed, but now everything I saw with a positive lens on it. And that took a long time because I had a lot of momentum going the opposite way. Right. It took a long time to reverse that momentum and start to build my way up. And the people that were surrounding me, other people with their own problems, they didn't like that. They liked, oh yeah, we could change our life and like to talk. They want to talk. But the action made them very uncomfortable. And you could see it starting to really get to some of them who didn't want their world to change. They didn't want me to change because that meant they could change and they would have to work to change, and they weren't ready for that. So I remember one woman in particular looking at me one day and going, what do you have to be so goddamn grateful for? And I was like, oh shit. Well, apparently that's another one because I'm getting under your skin. That means this is powerful. Yeah. That means this is really fucking doing something. So that just gave me even more momentum. But it took me probably 8 or 9 months before I really saw the effects of that change in thought.
Like, I think I had a somewhat similar experience when I hit bottom. And for me, it was literally like, because I had gone through the whole suicide stuff for a while. And it was like that one final decision of like, shit or get off the pot. Like, get busy living or get busy dying. Like, either do this or get completely over it and start making a change. Do you think that little decision is what triggered the... Like, okay, listen, like if I'm not going to do this, then I'm soaking on negativity. I need to find the positive.
Yeah, it was
like a trigger that kind of made that switched your thinking to, instead of wallowing in negative, to like, yes, that's what I have to do. Because I don't want to do this. Now I want to get out. Like, you finally made the decision.
So I think a lot of people get wrapped up in this massive switch, like all of a sudden you go from this to this, and when they don't see that, they lose heart. So the thing that changed for me, because there was still so much momentum going the opposite way into negativity, that I had to do the little thing and just remind myself, okay, here I'm going through my checklist of bad. find something good. Let's go through every time I'm starting to go this way, I need to find the good and try and do that. And so it's just a little thing every freaking time. But all those little things add up. Yeah. Exactly. It's like trying to build a house. You can't just stamp it out. Yeah. You got to lay some bricks. And you lay a row of bricks, and you stack another row on top of it, and eventually you've got something awesome.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of people, they're waiting for that miracle. They're waiting for God to come in and touch them on their shoulder, and their whole world changes. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. You know, for two reasons. I don't think that God is waiting around for you to need this miracle and ask him enough times that he finally comes down. I believe God's already given you the miracle, because if you see past, present, and future, you're not going to sit and wait for somebody to realize that they need you. You're going to go ahead and put that in and then do whatever else you need to do. So I'm thinking, the way I see it is, I was born with the miracle. I just had to realize it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people waste a lot of time praying to God for a miracle when they need to realize they've already got the miracle.
Right.
They've already got it. They just need to start acting on it. That's what changes their life, is acting like they've already been touched by God.
Right.
So that little piece, you know, and then remaining steadfast in that resolve, because your life's not going to flip and turn.
Yeah.
Instantaneously.
And mine didn't either. Like when I made that decision, like, okay, that's it, and I made promises to people I love that I will never put myself in this situation again. But it was like, for me, when I say flipping the switch, it was like, it was just opening up the valve where I could let positivity go.
Where you could do those little
Because it wasn't
bricks.
like, yo, I made a decision, so the next day I woke up happy. I mean, I still had the same shit.
Well,
but it was like, I know I'm not going to do this.
You open the door,
so I know I have to
lay in those bricks,
find these other things, and start changing this.
Yeah. So yeah, you were no longer waiting for that house to come down and be done. You were opening the door to start laying the bricks. That's the switch. That is when you can start opening the door to a new way of thinking.
Right.
And it's so subtle. Most people miss it.
With like you're talking about the subtle thing, I see this. I compare lifting and life a lot, because like the things that I learned in lifting are so
a lot of
conducive to what I do in life. I mean, if I follow what I did to make myself a champion in powerlifting, my life will be way better.
You don't squat 2 or 3 times and become a champion.
Yeah, and it's not. And I see that in strength as people like, I bench 225 now. I'm gonna do 400 by the end of the year. It's like, dude, I did my first meet. I did 1,700 pounds. 10 years later, I did 27. Yeah. Like, it doesn't happen. Like, it's a little bit at a time, man. It's not going like it. But people set themselves up, and then they fail, and they just quit lifting altogether. Like, they train for 3 months. And
That's it.
Like, I didn't get no.
You got to dial back your expectation.
Yeah. You get realistic goals. Like,
it
doesn't happen overnight.
You got to look at your feet for gratitude. Something simple. Look at your hands for gratitude. You can't look for something shining and beautiful to be grateful for. It's
like you come in and squat and go, well, I didn't squat what I wanted today, but you know what? I held my brace better.
That's exactly it.
I finally squeezed my rhomboids and felt it today. Like,
some people, you don't get 5 pounds each week. Sometimes you get the same weight, but maybe you did an extra rep or a higher weight for your warm up. Yeah. Or you held your brace better, or you feel like you executed the lift better. Yeah, you look for tiny things to be better today than you were yesterday. And that's what it's all about, man. It's not even taking one step each day. Sometimes it's just getting your foot to move forward a little bit each day.
Well, I remember Ed Cohn did a post not too long ago, and I messaged him after that, where he kind of said, like, he never really competed against anybody else. He always competed against himself.
And that's what the great guy like Zajunas.
I talked to him too, and it was like, when I started lifting, yes, I looked at the top. I looked at who's the best in the world, because I knew I wanted to be on that stage. But every meet I did, I didn't even give a shit where I placed.
Yeah.
Like, did I beat what I did last time? Did I progress in technique, in skill, in mental capacity? Like, I knew that if I just keep beating myself and I stay consistent and I keep going,
That's one of the
I'll
most
eventually
important
be where I
things
wanna
you
be.
can teach younger guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to beat yourself, improve upon yourself
Yeah.
a little bit each time. Because and I'm guilty of this. I'm always like, I should be here. I'm thinking I'm really here.
Yeah.
I should be, not
Yeah.
I am.
Right.
But here, keep going forward a little bit. And the guys at the top, Zadrunas was the best at this. He just came back a little bit better than himself every time. And, he had guys that were better. But like you say, you just keep chipping away.
Yeah.
These guys eventually fade out or get injured or whatever, and he just keeps going. And then you get your 2,700 pound total.
Mm-hmm. So now you're getting yourself on the straight line. You're looking for the positivity. You're realizing that the people around you are trying to drag you back.
Oh yeah, back then.
Where do you go? What's your next? And when did you come back to Reno? When was that?
So I was living in my house in Houston I got it in 2010. I lost it somewhere in 2014, but I was able to kind of play the system enough that I ended up staying in it until September of 2015. And then I lived in a storage unit for 3 or 4 months while I was trying to save money to move here to Reno. I actually moved out of that storage unit on Boxing Day 2015, so the day after Christmas. And I took about 10 days to drive from Houston to Reno because I was still an addict at the time. But I had purposely kind of burned my bridges with any connections. Mm-hmm. So I was having to really scale back the amount that I used out of necessity. So I had enough for the drive, but I had to really monitor how much I was using. And I had no chance of getting more because I didn't know where the hell I was. I didn't know anybody where I was going. And so I think, one, being forced to scale back how much you have, taper off, and then 2, having a mission is what really got me clear. Because when I left with a certain amount. I had as much time as I wanted to get to Reno. And so I took my time. I enjoyed the ride. Mm-hmm. And along the way I stopped where I wanted to stop. I slept when I wanted to sleep. I ate wherever I wanted to eat. I remember going to the Grand Canyon. I got there at 11 o'clock at night. There was snow everywhere. I'm in a 2-wheel drive pickup with about 700 pounds of shit in the back. It's the only reason I stayed on the road, I think. But I pulled off the road, and I was going to sleep for the night in a parking spot. And I woke up the next morning. Straight in front of me was the sun coming up over in front of the whole Grand Canyon. I was New Year's Day, 2016. So it's like hell of a new beginning.
Yeah. Kind of makes you have to think that maybe there's a purpose to some shit that happens.
That's exactly it. When you see omens like that, an omen is as important to the individual as the individual makes it. Mm-hmm. An omen, you see a bird in a tree, it means nothing unless the person seeing that bird feels something from it.
Yes.
Then it becomes an omen. So that for me was like, I'm on the right path. This is a new beginning. 2016 is the mark. I'm nothing but up from here. And, going back to the people that wanted to keep me in that hell, there was a lot of trouble the last year that I was in my house. There was a lot of trouble because I was starting to shake the boat a little bit, rock the boat a little bit. And, one of my friends broke in and stole a bunch of shit from me. A couple tablet and some tools and, things that tweakers freaking steal. Mm-hmm. Piece of shit. Such an asshole. But some of the other people I was hanging out with, one really couple sad stories. One was a younger guy, and I was really trying to help him stay away from drugs. He didn't really touch meth or anything. He was big on Xanax. And I'm like, because that's a really addictive, really potentially deadly thing. And so I was trying to get him away from that. I had helped him get a job. He was starting to look like he was improving, but I guess a drug deal went bad. And, on the news, I see his car, because he had a real distinctive car. His grandfather had given it to him. It was an old Cadillac, like a 70-something Cadillac. And it was sitting in an intersection. There's all this crime scene tape around it. Apparently he'd been shot in the head during a drug deal. He was driving off. He got to the light. The guy pulled up next to him and shot him. And so that was really sad, because it was like a week after his 21st birthday.